Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Pilar LaValley, a senior preservation planner at the planning department, and I was the staff person who prepared the landmark designation materials for this. Which was designated in July of this year as San Francisco landmark number 309. The San Francisco Landmark Program began in the late 1960s, and to date includes 9 landmark historic districts, which are groups of buildings, and 310 individual landmark properties. Designated city landmarks and landmark districts include iconic architectural masterpieces, monuments to historic events, and places associated with people and cultural and social movements that have defined our city. Landmark districts are groups of buildings that share architectural and historic significance, such as Telegraph Hill, with the city's largest concentration of pre-1870 structures. Alamo Square, with our famous painted ladies of Victorian residences. And South End Historic District, a collection of brick warehouses from almost every period in San Francisco's long maritime history. Individual landmark properties, of which this is one of 310, range from iconic buildings like City Hall, Mission Dolores, Ghirardelli Square, Transamerica Pyramid, and the Ferry Building, along with unassuming structures like the Tan Fornin Cottages, constructed in 1853 and believed to be the oldest residential buildings in the Mission, or a late 19th century shipwrights cottage. These individual landmarks also include places of important cultural associations like Marcus Books and Jimbo's Box City in the Fillmore, or Casa Sanchez in the Mission. And artworks like the Great Cloud of Witnesses collage at Ingleside Presbyterian Church and frescoes by Diego Rivera, as well as the former home of the late LGBTQ icons Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon. It has been truly gratifying to be involved in adding Fellowship Church to the city's ever-evolving and expanding landmark properties. In the landmark designation, the church is identified as culturally and historically significant as one of the first interracial, intercultural, and interdenominational churches in the United States. It's also very significant for its association, obviously, with Dr. Howard Thurman and his wife, Sue Bailey Thurman. And uniquely, it's only one of a handful of such landmark properties that are significant for their association with important people in our history. Dr. Blake asked that I share some of my thoughts and experience from the journey and the process of this landmark designation. In every landmark designation project, I learned something about San Francisco, its built environment, and the many people who make it their home and workshop. And always a little bit about myself as well, I think. And this was no exception. I was here a year ago for the convocation, and I'm excited to be here again today. And in a building that was first built probably in the 1880s, but rebuilt at least once, probably twice, and moved 3 times. This is its 3rd location. But interestingly, in all those years, it's always housed a religious congregation. I think it's interesting. And it was a pleasure to be immersed for a year and a half in the history of this congregation and in the lives of Dr. Howard Thurman and his wife, Sue Bailey Thurman. And it was a great personal pleasure to actually get to document the life of a great woman, Sue Bailey Thurman, and learn about her long career and the important work that she did in the dissemination of African American history, and in the work to progress the lives of Black women, and her advocacy for universal emancipation. She was a great internationalist. She really believed in expanding awareness of peoples everywhere, and traveled extensively through her life and work. And I also just think that it was always in the course of writing, but in the compiling some pretty dry reports and papers that are the essential parts of the governmental sort of process of the bureaucratic process of landmark designation. I often thought about how revolutionary, truly revolutionary, the establishment of this congregation was and remains. And how awe-inspiring, but also a little bit bittersweet that it is still so revolutionary. So, I truly want to thank Reverend Dr. Blake, Board Chair Brian Caston, and the Church's Board of Trustees and this congregation for their gracious, welcoming, and patient response to the Planning Department's written inquiry, essentially a cold call, that we sent out about potential to landmark this building in 2020 during the pandemic. And their collaboration and partnership with us to making this San Francisco landmark number 309 in 2023. On behalf of myself and the Planning Department and the Historic Preservation Commission, of which I see at least one of the commissioners that was there and several former commissioners as well. It's been a privilege to work in partnership with the church on the landmark designation, and we're very excited to continue and expand this partnership as we embark upon preparing a nomination of the church for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. Thank you all so much.